Hi everyone, Dr. Vaughn. I'm going to make a quick video to hopefully provide some assistance and guidance for completing your case study. First, I wanted to actually share with you a case study that I received from a student about 6 months ago, and they did really well on it. I think they got a perfect score. First of all, notice that this is in APA formatting. If I go up above, there's the name and the title page. And so they have the headers, they got the automatic page numbering, and then they've centered and the section, and now they're providing this. They have the graphics in line with their text. Here's an example of the histogram where it shows the F scale and then the number of tornadoes in each one. These kind of data you could probably just type in and create a simple bar graph. Here's a pie graph of the same thing, nice and colorful. They did lots of options on there to make it attractive. And here we're getting into the histograms. This is histogram donation where you have all of the tornadoes. And then they go into each individual one, the F0 tornadoes, the F1 tornadoes, the F2 tornadoes, and so forth. So what I'm going to do is show you how to actually make one of these histograms. And it requires a couple of steps. So the first thing that I want to do is actually go into the classroom, open up the PDF document, and as I've done here, highlight the data. I'm going to do the F5s. Right, so I'm gonna highlight the data here and just copy it out of the PDF document. I'm gonna open up an Excel. Now I've already kind of started on this, so I'm gonna go to a new tab as if you can't see anything and show you what I did. And then I'll go back and pick up what I was working on the first sheet. So the first thing I'm gonna do is just type a data label. These are the numbers for the F5 tornadoes. This is gonna save me from typing all the numbers in. Then I'm gonna go into the next column and just do a paste operation. Now, these are all very small. In fact, I copied the font over, so you can just change this back to the original font if you want. Calibri, I think I'm at 11 point. Right, but what I want to do is separate these numbers into different cells instead of having them all in the same cell. So I'm going to select the column that has all of those things in it. I'm going to go to the Data tab, and I'm going to use this Text to Columns feature. Choose Delimited, and then use comma as the delimiting thing, the character that's separating the numbers from each other. Then you can hit finish. And see, now these numbers are all in different cells. Now, another thing that I want to do, just because I preferred, is to put these into a vertical column instead of a horizontal column. So I'm going to come down here and leave myself some room for the other tornadoes that I need to do, F1, F2, F3, F4, and then F5. And now I'm going to take the data values, not the F5 label, copy it, right-click copy, and then go under F5, and I'm going to do a paste option, the paste special, which is the transpose. So it transposes that row into a column, and now the data are under the header in the column that associates with F5. All right, let me do one more of these. So what I would want to do is just reset this, clear contents. Now let's do maybe the F1. All right, so I'm going to go to my PDF document. I'm going to find the F1s. I forgot F0. I need to put that in. Copy. Okay, go to the F1. Put it in the horizontal. I'm going to change the font. To match. I'm going to take all these numbers in this cell and do text to columns, delimited by that column, that comma, finish. So now they're all extended out. Then I'm going to copy them, make sure I get all of them, copy, and then I'll go under the header and do paste transpose. Right, and then you can erase this, you can delete or that whole column if you want. I need to insert, because I forgot a column. So I'm going to leave myself room to put those F0 category tornadoes. And now you can continue. All right, so let's take this F1 or F5 and create a histogram. So what I'm going to do is highlight the label and the data. and then go up to Insert, and under Charts, I'm going to go to this bar graph, and I'm looking for the histogram. So I'm going to go to More Column Charts and go down to the histogram tool. And this is the histogram it's going to create for me by default. It's not bad. You've got 4 different categories here, but I'm going to show you a few of the options that you can do. So I'm going to press OK for now. The histogram shows up on my page. One, I can edit the title, like you saw in that other student's papers. Histogram of F1 tornadoes by duration in minutes. All right, you make it your own title, and fix my capitalization and everything else areas. You can also look at, these are some different kinds of color shading conventions, and you can change the color palettes over here if you want different colors. Okay, if you click on the bars themselves, like the graph over here, then you have some additional options. Like click on one of the bars and go over here. You want to make sure this gap width is set to 0. You don't really want any space between the bars when you're doing a histogram. If you're doing a bar graph, fine. But in a histogram, they're supposed to touch each other because the end of one category is always the beginning of the next. Now, the other thing that I can do is actually format the data axes. If I don't want these 4 bins, they automatically bin these between 1 and 9.8, 9.8 and 18.6, etc. If you don't want those kind of default bins, you can go up to the Add Chart element and look at the axis options. And under the Format Axis options, now make sure you're on the 3 bars. You have these bins. And so I can do automatic, which is what's set right now, or I can set it to be a number of bins. If instead of 4 bins, I wanted to see 5 bins or 6 bins, it's still automatically binning them, but I can set the number of bins, which kind of gives me a good picture of the distribution of these. I would suggest that you go somewhere in that neighborhood of 5 or 6 or 7 bins. It's going to be a bit tough when you get to the F5s because you don't have very many of them. So on F5, you might only have like 3 or 4 bins, or even 2 bins is a bit small for a histogram. But you're really trying to see this kind of how the categories, and you see them kind of drop off. Most of them are pretty short, but then there's a few that lasted really very long. All right, so after you're done, you've chosen the colors, you've set the bins the way that you want it, you gave it a title. You can also add axis titles if you want, along the horizontal or along the vertical. There's lots of things you can do. Okay, so click somewhere outside of it, and now you're back to your primary Excel window. Then you can copy this graph and just paste it right into your Word document. So let me let's see if I can pull open another new Word document. And I'm just typing along. I'm working on my paper, blah, 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 blah. And I can just paste in that histogram. And then the real nice thing is now once it's in here, I can resize it on my page. Right? I can't go back and change those without jumping into my Excel document, but that's how I think you can use this histogram, column bar graph in Excel to create histograms. Make sure that you have the bars touching each other, and make sure you give it an appropriate title. All right, and the other thing that you could consider doing is if you actually had StatCrunch open, you still have to get the data into StatCrunch. So one of the things you might want to do, that the histograms, you get more flexibility. They're easier to make the histograms in StatCrunch than they are here in Excel. But the harder part is getting the data in without having to manually type them. So if you did the little data to columns trick that I showed you earlier, then I can actually copy this data right out of Excel, go over to my StatCrunch window. I don't have one open right now to show you. And then I could paste it into StatCrunch, and then I can build the histogram using the histogram tool in StatCrunch instead, which, like I said, is a little bit easier to control the number of bins and the bin sizes. It's just one of the options that you have in there. All right, so I hope that this has been helpful. I'm just trying to demonstrate how this project, this case study might look. I've given you a sample of that from a previous student, and I've also demonstrated for you how to import the data, most efficiently in at least one case, and how to create a histogram both in Excel and a little bit about how to do it in StatCrunch. This has been Dr. Vaughn, and I'll talk to you again soon.